If I could have everyone's attention while you're finishing up your dessert, I'm going to make some announcements. I'd like to say welcome to the 5th Annual Source Foundation Awards. I'm Kay Smith. I'm a member of Source and chairperson of the Foundation Awards Committee. I'm going to take a moment. Thank you. I'm going to take a moment to tell you about Source and acknowledge some very important people to Source. Source is an organization of female executives in the Nashville music industry, founded in 1991. Thank you. Got it? Thank you. Good. Founded in 1991 by Judy Harris, Pat Rolfe, and Sheila Shipley Biddy. Would you ladies please stand so everyone can see you? Today, we're over 100 members strong. The purpose of Source is to provide a source of information for our members' business needs, professional contacts, career opportunities, short-term aid to women in the music industry who need assistance that encounter financial, personal, or medical problems, and industry-related education. In continuing the effort to provide industry-related education, the Foundation Award was established in 2003 to recognize women who played and play a vital role in the Nashville music industry and paved the way for women in the music industry today. Tonight, we have 10 of our previous year's honorees with us. I'd like to recognize each of them, and would you please stand when your name is called? Patsy Bradley, Janet Butler, Peggy Motley, Judy Roberts, Carolyn Sales, Peggy Sherrill, Jean Stromat, and Corky Wilson. Also representing her sister, Irene Stanton, we're pleased to have Dr. Emma Flowers with us. And we're also glad to have Bill Denny representing former honorees Dolly Denny and Mary Claire Rhodes. Thank all of y'all for being with us. In 2004, Source established the Lifetime Achievement Award to recognize women executives in the Nashville music industry who are not only a foundation for the Nashville music industry, but have excelled in bringing Nashville outside to Nashville, Nashville music industry outside to Nashville and worldwide. We're honored to have our first Lifetime Achievement Award recipient who so graciously agreed to let Source name the award after her, Jo Walker Metter. Jo, would you please stand? Also, we're honored to have with us tonight our second Lifetime Achievement Award recipient, Brenda Lee. In 2006, Source was blessed with 2 guardian angels, Joe and Linda Chambers. Joe and Linda donate the use of this beautiful reception hall for us to hold our Foundation Award presentations, and they donated the theater room in the Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum for the permanent exhibit of our Foundation and Lifetime Achievement Awards. In addition, they give our Source honorees and their immediate family gratis admission to the museum, and all Source members receive a discount to tour the museum. Joe and Linda, would you please stand? Now I would like to introduce the 2007 Source Board of Directors and the Foundation Award Committee. Would each of you please stand when your name is called? The Board of Directors are Judy Harris, President, Pat Rolfe, Vice President, Judy Turner, Secretary, and Jill Napier, Treasurer. The Foundation Award Committee members are Karen Conrad, Judy Harris, Pat Rolfe, Betty Sanders, Barbara Turner, Judy Turner, and Judy Ray. In addition, thank you to Betty Sanders, who chaired the sponsorship committee this year, and to her committee members. They did an excellent job. Thank you. Thanks to Tina Camp, who has chaired the decoration committee for 5 years, and to her committee. To Grace Reinbald, who has donated her time and financial support for 5 years to design and produce our honorees sponsor and sponsor boards. Also thanks to Tanya Derry, who's a new member of SOURCE this year. To Brooke Summer Kujawa and J.T. McCrary for helping wherever you're needed. All of you are much appreciated. Thanks to Valerie Summers, who built and oversees our SOURCE website. Her favorite words to say are check out our website at www.sourcenashville.com. Thanks to Bob Mather for scanning the honorary photos for SOURCE, and to Keith Lightsey for his work with SOURCE and helping design our logo for our permanent exhibit, and to Ken Kittinger, who is our official framer. Last but not least, I'd like to encourage everyone to look at your program book and our sponsorship boards for all of our wonderful sponsors and take time to personally thank them, for without them we would not be here tonight. Thanks to all of you. For the last few years, I've introduced Charlie Monk by saying, now that Mayor Purcell has left the building, here's the self-proclaimed Mayor of Music Row and star of Sirius Satellite Radio, Charlie Monk. However, this year, I have the pleasure of introducing the real mayor of Nashville and Music Row, the Honorable Bill Purcell. Mayor Purcell.
First of all, that was the most incredible beginning to any important meeting in the history of the city of Nashville. I sat here thinking, if Kay Smith had just been a member of the Metro Council, we would have gotten a lot more done. And then on top of that, she didn't just introduce me, but she introduced the next guy too, just in case I wasn't here. So it's a really special pleasure for me to be able to be here and to be with you throughout this whole evening, and to be with so many legends in every corner, in every seat, really. Some of you, like Emmylou Harris and Jeannie Seely and my table mate and incredible friend Brenda Lee. Some of you are onstage legends and are the stars who shine in the spotlights. We all know that. But tonight, it's a particular honor to be here to pay tribute to the Music Row legends who for so many years have made the spotlight shine. This evening is the sort of event that really only could happen in Music City, the place that the country music and music we all love calls home. On an evening like this, I feel like I'm at a family dinner, a sort of love feast where the women of Music Row honor their mentors, the women who in many cases have served as surrogate mothers and favorite aunts, part of a cherished sisterhood, who for decades and decades have supported and nurtured each other. The women we honor here this evening have mostly worked behind the scenes, but not very far behind the scenes. These are the women who made the music happen, made it all happen, made it all possible. During my years as mayor, the SOURCE Dinner has become an event I look forward to with special pleasure, and I know you do too. It isn't often in life that you get the opportunity to say thank you to people who are your heroines, whether they're sung or unsung. And tonight I'm honored to be here to join in as we all sing their song. And to have a chance on this last evening, about 1 month before I leave the office of your mayor, to tell you what it means and has meant to me to be treated as family by the people in this room and the people you represent in the music industry. For me, being the mayor of Music City will always be the greatest honor. And I think it's also fair to observe that, and the men in this room know this, they only allow a very few men into this event. And we feel especially uplifted to be allowed, to be in your presence, to be in this place. Now, I have thought for some time that you allow this really only to be reminded how much better women really are. And if you have... And so you just allow a few of us here so that you can occasionally be reminded in an immediate fashion of just how true that is. And that's especially true of this next man I'm going to introduce. He is at least a kissing cousin at any gathering of the Music Row family. He is my friend, and he would insist that I say, my fellow mayor. He is the unelected and therefore unimpeachable Mayor of Music Row, Charlie Monk.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, let me strike it rich like Buddy Cannon. And if you can, before the rapture comes, give me a singing voice so that I can do a duet with Emmy Lou. By the way, would you please help us find a cure for Kix Brooks? He's got something real bad, Lord. I just learned that he's considering doing a solo album. And please, Lord, let me become the man that my dog thinks I am. Amen. Don't any of you women start grabbing and groping at me, because my wife's here and she's a hell of a lot meaner than Faith Hill. I want you to know that. Now remember, I am not a stand-up comic. I am an intellectual humorist. So you better laugh at everything I say or people around you will think you're dumb as hell. This is a great event, Women Honoring Women, which in turn empowers other women. So listen carefully. A woman accompanied her husband to the doctor's office. After the checkup, the doctor called the wife into the office alone. He said, "Your husband is suffering from a very severe stress disorder. If you do the following, if you don't do the following, the husband will surely die. Each morning, fix him a healthy breakfast. Be pleasant at all times. For lunch, make him a nutritious meal. For dinner, prepare an especially nice meal for him. Don't burden him with chores. Don't discuss your problems with him. It will only make the stress worse. And most importantly, no nagging. Now, if you do this for the next 10 months to a year, I think your husband will regain his health completely." On the way home, the husband curiously asked, "Well, what did the doctor say?" She thought for a minute. She said, "He said you're going to die." I am your favorite radio personality on Sirius Radio, Channel 62, The Roadhouse. I used to be a writer. I wrote under a pen name, Bick. I just got back from a pleasure trip. I just took my sister-in-law to the airport. Her plane doesn't leave until tomorrow. Well, politics was in the news today. Chelsea Clinton, campaigning for her dear mother, was talking to a combat-decorated soldier. Chelsea asked him what were the three things he feared most in the world. His answer was classic. He said, "Osama, Obama, and your mama." Republican Rudy Giuliani says that women should have a choice. He also thinks that men should too. Thus far, he's chosen 3 wives. I saw that Al Gore had a physical yesterday. It's been determined that he died of natural causes. By the way, Al's new book is called An Inconvenient Son. I heard today that President Bush's approval numbers are so low that he only has the support now from Laura and one of the twins. By the way, under the new proposed immigration bill, we can keep Barry and Joel Coburn. A new Vanderbilt study has found that the average American walks about 900 miles a year. Emmy and I do that every day. They also found out that Americans drink an average of 22 gallons of beer a year. That means on average, Pat Higdon gets about 41 miles a gallon. Did you notice since the Don Imus debacle that pirates can't say yo-ho-ho anymore? Did you ever notice that Norval Wilson looks a lot like Shrek? Yippee-ki-yay, Shelby Singleton is here. I recently attended a birthday party for Shelby. I'm not saying how old he is, but I heard his high school graduation speaker was named Lincoln, and his favorite gift is oxygen. Shelby says, you know you've gotten old when your toes outnumber your teeth. Someone said that when Karen Conrad reads the 10 Commandments, she goes, did that, didn't do that, did that, didn't do that. Football player Michael Vick got thrown out of the Palm last night. He didn't finish his dinner and he asked for a doggy bag. Some of us were passing around Glenn Sutton's stories last night, and I remember Glenn telling me that he walked into a tavern one night and got to talking to a beautiful lady sitting at the bar. He offered to buy her a drink, and they proceeded to drink a lot. Apparently, she drank more than he did. All of a sudden, she fell off the stool, and he couldn't get her to stand up. He decided she's too drunk to drive home, so he carried her to the car. She was able to tell him her address, and so he drove her there. When he got to the house, she still couldn't stand up, so he carried her to the steps and rang the doorbell. The mother came to the door and asked where her wheelchair was. I was listening to rap music on the way over here. I didn't have a choice. It was coming out of a 99 Caddy 4 blocks away. Somebody said that rap music is like a fat person walking while wearing corduroy. I have a friend that lives in Utah. He's a Mormon. Last week he married a beautiful woman. Next week he's marrying her sister. I heard that Billy Sherrill has gone into therapy. He's trying to get in touch with his egomaniacal inner self. The weather was oppressive today, was it not? Oh, the temperature was so high it made Billy Ray Cyrus hot again. Ronnie Shacklet told me that times are really tough. He said he now has a 90-day note due every 30 minutes. Makes sense to me. The CMA now blames sluggish record sales on the hurricane season and Al-Qaeda. I guess you heard that Hank Jr. was in the hospital. Yep, he tested positive for Pro Tools. You have to be in. Judy Harris told me that when she was a teenager, she asked her father for $40. Her dad responded, $30? What the hell would you do with $20? Just as Bill and Barbara Turner were getting out of the car tonight, a bird flew over and put a dropping right on Barb's head. She looked at Bill and said, I wish I had some toilet paper. And Bill said, why, that bird must be a half a mile away by now. I have a preacher friend here. He says that he always starts his service with, and the Lord be with you. And the congregation responds, and also with you. One Sunday, he didn't think the mic was working, so he blurted out, there's something wrong with the microphone. And the congregation responded, and also with you. I realize I have a disease. I'm a workaholic. I've noticed from my kids that it's a disease that skips generations. I found out the other day that my wife actually owns cookbooks. However, I remembered when our oldest son, Chip, became 13, she gave him a can opener and a tutorial. She cooked a roast the other night, and if she cooked it for just 2 more minutes, it would have been a diamond. Why do I do this? I've come to realize that most of the problems that my wife and I have are because we're from two different families. I also have come to accept the fact that the only thing that we have in common is the fact we were both married on the same day. The Rolling Stones' Keith Richards made a multi-million-dollar deal last month to write a book that covers his life from birth to his death 10 years ago. Dr. Kevorkian's out of prison. Warner Brothers has signed him to a record deal. The CD will be called Dr. Kevorkian Unplugged. Bill, you won't sit with me after this week. I heard that Keith Lightsey is really cheap. He's been known to back into McDonald's so the cashier is on the passenger side. This is a public service announcement. If anyone here has a drinking problem, call 773-0964. That's a liquor store in Green Hills. Joe and Linda Chambers rented a lakeside fishing cottage last month. Joe fished for a couple of days, but decided to take one day off. Although not familiar with the lake, Linda took the boat out. She motored out, dropped the anchor, put her feet up, and started to read a new book. The peace and solitude was wonderful. All of a sudden, a game warden showed up and said, "Good morning, ma'am. What are you doing?" "Duh, I'm reading a book," Linda responded. "Well, you're in a restricted fishing area," he informed her. "I'm not fishing, I'm reading," she said. "Yes, but you have all the equipment. For all I know, you could start fishing any moment." "I'm afraid I'll have to take you in and write you up." Linda thought for a moment and said, "Okay, but if you do, I'll have to charge you with a sexual assault." "But I haven't touched you," he yelled. "That's true," Linda said, "but you have all the equipment. For all I know, you could start any time." Dolly Parton has bought Big Lots, Piggly Wiggly, and Harris Teeter. I don't know if you know that or not. The new company will be called Big Wigs and Big Teeters. Most of you remember Jerry Wood from ASCAP and Billboard. He's now working for Disney down in Florida. And he emailed me the other day. He said he went to a grocery store, picked up some bread, bananas, peanut butter, and some batteries, and then took it over to the checkout counter. And the good-looking checkout lady looked at the items and asked him, "You're single, aren't you?" He said, "Yes, but how in the hell could you tell that from my purchases?" She said, "Because you're ugly as hell." I ran into my friend Ed Benson at the cocktail party. Instead of offering to buy me a drink, he offered me a sip of his. Finally, I heard another record promo guy got fired last week, but he's still in the business. He's selling wind chimes at Home Depot. Did Howard Gentry ever show up? Well, he tried to be here, and Mr. Mayor, it's nice to have you, but I wish Howard, I wanted to applaud him for a great race that he ran. So I was going to do that anyway if you were, I thought he did a great job. Being a Music Row veteran and a former college professor, I get a lot of calls to speak to groups about country music. I sometimes agree. Then they tell me they want a question and answer session. I say, oops, I talk. I don't answer questions. I give them the phone number of the man with all the answers. Robert K. Orman, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm going to break with tradition tonight. Instead of just talking about music history, I'm going to talk about women's history in a little bit more general way, and specifically this date in women's history. This is August the 23rd. It is the feast day of a female saint, Saint Rose of Lima. She is the patron saint of florists and gardeners. Now, Rose was a rather unusual girl. She grew up in Lima, Peru, and was the first person from the New World that was sainted by the Catholic Church. Born in 1586, and as befitting her mixed Hispanic and Incan descent, she preferred her religion on the flamboyant side, with a good helping of gore. Rose's legendary facial beauty distressed her, So she found that rubbing her cheeks with pepper and her lips with quicklime helped. In public, she invariably wore a crown of roses with 69 brow-piercing spikes. She lived in a shack in her family garden from whence she was wrought to emerge dragging a heavy cross. This ideal of Catholic girlhood slept on a pile of bricks, wore gloves full of nettles, whipped herself with chains, and gouged hunks out of her flesh with broken glass. She was generally assumed to be loco in the coco until the day she announced that through her fervent prayers, Lima had been saved from an earthquake. Since there had indeed been no earthquake, the population came to hold her in the highest regard and rejoiced wildly when she was canonized in 1671. In astrology, this begins the month of Virgo, the Virgin. Virgos are modest and shy, meticulous and reliable, practical and diligent, intelligent and analytical. On the dark side, they are fussy and a worrier, overcritical and harsh, perfectionists and conservatives. Thus, this is the only sign of the zodiac represented by a female. Your colors are green and dark brown. Famous Virgoians include Lyndon Johnson, Ivan the Terrible, Mother Teresa, Pee Wee Herman, Ingrid Bergman, Michael Jackson, Lily Tomlin, Otis Redding, Agatha Christie, Mickey Mouse, Sophia Loren, Joan Jett, Buddy Holly, Claudette Colbert, and Lauren Bacall. Now, the month of August is widely perceived as a slow news month by the media, but in women's news, it has always had plenty of happenings. On this date in 1814, Dolly Madison saved the White House treasures during the British attack during the War of 1812. Most notably, she cut the Gilbert Stuart portrait of George Washington out of its frame just before the British set fire to the White House. Even after James Madison stopped being president, Dolly Madison remained a beloved figure in the Capitol and was the only private citizen, never mind a woman, who was allowed to sit in Congress while it was in session. And this year, a $10 gold piece will be struck in her honor. On this date in 1838, Mount Holyoke Female Seminary graduated its first class in Massachusetts. On this date in 1847, Sarah Frances Whiting was born. An astronomer, she founded the physics department at Wellesley College and established its observatory. On this date, August 23, 1850, the first National Women's Rights Convention in U.S. history was convened in Worcester, Massachusetts. On August 23, 1861, Rose Greenhow was arrested as a spy. She was a Washington, D.C. society lady who passed military secrets to the Confederacy, notably about the First Battle of Bull Run. They imprisoned her and then they exiled her to Richmond. Big mistake. She went to Europe to raise sympathy for the Southern cause, wrote a book while it was over there about her imprisonment, which became widely popular. And so while returning home with the fruits of her labors from her book, the frigate she was on was attacked by a Union boat. She jumped into a dinghy which capsized in the ocean, and she drowned because of the $2,000 in gold coins that was sewed into her dress. There you go. On August 23, 1902, Fanny Farmer opened her cooking school in Boston. She revolutionized cooking by introducing the precise measuring of ingredients for the first time. On this date in 1913, the statue of the Little Mermaid was unveiled in Copenhagen, Denmark. It is now the symbol of the city. On this date in Nashville in 1916, Hattie Louise Tootsie Bess was born. She later created Tootsie's Orchid Lounge. Now, cheating just a little bit, on August 26th, which is 3 days from now, we celebrate the date when the 19th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution was ratified, which gave women the right to vote. On August the 23rd, 1922, Jean Darling was born. She was one of the original cast members of the Our Gang movie series, and today is one of the few living members still with us. On this date in 1924, Ma Ferguson won the Democratic nomination for governor of Texas. She went on to become the first female governor of Texas and only the second female governor in U.S. history. Now, Ma Ferguson was kind of corrupt, but you gotta say these two things for her. She was anti-Ku Klux Klan, and during Prohibition, she was pro-alcohol. On this date in 1930, Vera Miles was born. She later investigates the disappearance of her screen sister Janet Leigh in Psycho. In 1932, on August the 23rd, Amelia Earhart became the first female pilot to make a transcontinental flight across the United States. On August 23rd, 1934, Barbara Eden was born, later to memorize us all with her bare midriff outfits on I Dream of Jeannie. On this date in 1939, The Wizard of Oz went into general release in the United States with Judy Garland appearing as Dorothy. In 1944, on this date, is the birthday of Antonio Novello, the first woman and first Hispanic Surgeon General of the United States. On this date in 1947, Margaret Truman made her society debut as a concert pianist and singer at the Hollywood Bowl. The critics hated her, and Harry Truman, her father, hated the critics. In 1949, on this date, Shelley Long was born. Later, she becomes a comedy standout on Cheers. In 1951, Lisa Halaby was born in Washington, D.C. on this date. We know her better as Queen Noor of Jordan, the wife of King Hussein. In Nashville, on August 23rd, 1952, It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels became the first #1 country record by a woman. Thank you, Ms. Kitty Wells. On August the 23rd, 1953, publicists put out advance press for the book The Kinsey Report, informing us that 50% of American women admit to having premarital sex. On this date in 1959, Sally Brown's character debuted in the comic strip Peanuts. On this date in 1964, Where Did Our Love Go became the first #1 hit for the Supremes. In 1968, on August the 23rd, Jeannie C. Ryler's Harper Valley PTA debuted on the country charts. On this date in 1969, A Boy Named Sue hit #1 for Johnny Cash. On August 23rd, 1970, the U.S. Postal Service issued its Susan B. Anthony stamp in honor of the pioneering suffragette. This is country singer Shelley Fairchild's 37th birthday. On this date in 1972, Donna Fargo got her gold record for the happiest girl in the whole USA. And on that same date, Priscilla Presley decided to divorce Elvis. On August 23rd, 1973, Loretta Lynn and Conway Twitty were at #1 with Louisiana Woman, Mississippi Man, and in 1974, on the same date, they were at #1 with As Soon as I Hang Up the Phone. On August 23rd, 1974, President Ford signed a proclamation designating this August 26th, again the date of the ratification of the amendment, as Women's Equality Day. On this date in 1978, Crystal Gale's at #1 with Talkin' in Your Sleep. On this date in 1982, Sylvia sits at #1 on the country charts with Nobody. On this date in 1986, Madonna was at #1 with Papa Don't Preach on the Papa Don't Hit Parade, and a year later at 1987, she's again at #1 with Who's That Girl? On August the 23rd, 1989, Victoria Brucker of San Pedro, California, became the first girl to play in the Little League Baseball World Series. In 1990, on this date, Mariah Carey was at #1 on the pop charts with Vision of Love. In 1998, on this date, Joe DiMessina was on the #1 on the country charts with I'm All Right. And on this date in 2004, Reba McEntire was at #1 with Somebody, her last chart-topping single to date. And one of its co-writers was a woman, Annie Tate. And finally, August is Women's History Month. Thank you.
Once upon a time, in a land far, far away, a beautiful, independent, self-assured princess happened upon a frog as he sat contemplating ecological issues on the shores of an unpolluted pond in a verdant meadow near her castle. The frog hopped into the prince's lap and said, "Elegant lady, I was once a handsome prince until an evil witch cast a spell upon me. One kiss from you, however, will turn it back and I will be turned back into the dapper young prince that I am, and then, my sweet, we can marry and set up housekeeping in your castle with my mother, where you can prepare my meals, clean my clothes, bear my children, and forever feel grateful and happy doing so." That night, as the princess dined sumptuously on lightly sauteed frog legs, seasoned in a wine sauce and onion cream sauce, she chuckled and thought to herself, I don't think so. I'm in the process of writing a treatment for a new TV show. It's an action drama about my life. I want our next two gals to be the stars. I think I have a clever original title. It's called Charlie's Angels. And those two are, ladies and gentlemen, Jeannie Celia and Brenda Lee.
Thank you.
Hey,
Hey.
welcome up here with me.
Well, thank you. It's good to be here.
Kind of used
You
to
got your
working with.
notes?
Yeah, I'm kind of get Charlie to get all his crap out of here. I could see what I'm doing. Wow. He needs more material, doesn't he?
Yeah. Here, I got a few.
Here it
He's
is.
got too much stuff. Okay, here we go. It is good to be with you all tonight, and it's certainly good to be co-hosting this with Jeannie. She's one of the funniest human beings that I've ever known, and one of the sweetest, and one of the best. And we just love her to death, and we're glad she's here. So we'll just get right on with our first recipient of the Source Award tonight. Let me say that I know all of these women, love each and every one of them, have been honored to know them. But I'm very thrilled to be able to talk about this next lady. Known her, I think I first met her when I was about 16. She and her husband, Felice Bryant. Yeah, give her a hand, please. Felice Bryant, in partnership with her husband Boudleaux, is credited with pioneering song promotion and self-publishing in Nashville, thus advancing the business side of the songwriting craft. The writers of more than 800 songs, including Wake Up Little Susie, Bye Bye Love, Raining in My Heart, Felice and Boudleaux were among the first to relocate to Nashville in the mid-20th century solely to pursue a songwriting career. They founded their own company, Showcase Music, in 1954, and Felice became the song plugger. It was said Felice beat down the door for Boudleaux to walk through. Felice and Boudleaux signed with Acuff Rose Publishing to publish their songs, but in an unparalleled move, they stipulated that U.S. publishing rights to their songs would eventually revert to their ownership. I should have listened to them a whole lot closer. In 1966, they left Acuff Rose and formed their own House of Bryant publishing company, which Felice continued to run even after Boudleaux's death. Born in Milwaukee, Felice was an elevator operator in a hotel when she met Boudleaux, who was performing at the hotel. Together, they would become one of the most important and prolific songwriting teams and publishers in music history, and were at the forefront of the evolution of pop music. They scored cuts by everyone from Eddie Arnold and the Everly Brothers to Bob Dylan, Tony Bennett, Simon and Garfunkel, the Grateful Dead, Elvis Presley, and Ray Charles, which resulted in record sales, get this, in excess of 500 million copies worldwide. Yes. Their song Rocky Top was adopted as Tennessee's official state song in 1982. Felice is enshrined in the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Songwriters Hall of Fame, the Georgia Music Hall of Fame, the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, and now in the Source Foundation Award exhibit in the Musicians Hall of Fame and Museum. Here to accept her Source Foundation Award is one of her sons, Dane Bryant. Dane.
Lovely.
Here, let me get on. Come over here.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, my brother wanted to be here for this, but for those of you that are BMI writers or publishers, he's hard at work. So he's not here with me tonight. But Mom would love being part of this group. I mean, she was part of this group. She felt part of it, and I can't tell you how honored she would be to be part of it and be enshrined with these wonderful women that have been so important to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you. And this next young woman is a unique human being. And she's frowning at me and wondering what I'm saying. I love Mary Martin. She's just precious, and I love her. Mary Martin began her 5-decade career in New York in 1962 as executive assistant to famed artist manager Albert Grossman, who guided the careers of Bob Dylan, Janis Joplin, Peter, Paul, and Mary, and others. Striking out on her own 4 years later, she managed the initial career of Leonard Cohen and then Van Morrison. Mary joined Warner Brothers Records in New York in 1972 as director of A&R, signing such artists as Emmylou Harris, Leon Redbone, and the Marshall Tucker Band. Moving to Los Angeles at the end of that decade, she returned to artist management for a young Rodney Crowell and Vince Gill. She also provided production assistance to Crowell for artists such as Roseanne Cash, Sissy Spacek, Guy Clark, and Albert Lee. In addition, she initiated the fan clubs and oversaw the creation of successful merchandising ventures.
Page 2. Moving to Nashville in 1985, she was named Vice President of A&R for RCA Records, working with such artists as Gill, Clint Black, Paul Overstreet, Aaron Tippin, and Lori Morgan. In 1991, she served as Executive Director of ECO, Earth Communications Office, implementing fundraising events and other activities for the nonprofit organization. After consulting with Asylum Records A&R department from 1994 to 96, she joined Mercury Records as Vice President of A&R in 2001. In that capacity, she co-produced the Grammy Award-winning Hank Williams tribute album, Timeless. Here is Mary's friend, Emmylou Harris, to present Mary's Source Foundation Award. Emmylou?
Oh, I don't need the step. Sorry, Brenda. Oh, well, just wanted to say, I just turned 60, and I want to thank my mother who's here tonight. And lately find myself thinking about the arc of my life and how different it would have been if it had not intersected with the lives of some really special people. Going back, I think most of you all know that Graham Parsons was, of course, one of them. In addition to teaching me a lot about singing, he put me on my first tour bus, where I've spent the better part of the last 35 years, and actually found that I liked it. And lucky for me, I guess. It was through Graham that I met Ed Tickner, a really wonderful, lovely man who managed me after Graham's death, and whose vision and guidance I'm really still reaping the rewards of today. But his first official act as my manager was probably the most profound and far-reaching, because it was Eddie who brought Mary Martin into my life. And it was at a club outside of Washington, D.C., where I was playing with my little country band. And of course, as you've heard before, she was the head of A&R for Warner Brothers at that time, and I was lucky enough that she saw something she liked and she signed me up. But more importantly, she did what Mary did for all of her artists. She became my champion and my protector. Because although Mary technically worked for the record company, her passion, her allegiance, her fierce loyalty were first and foremost for the music and the people who made it. Mary always spoke her mind, even when it would get her into trouble, and it did. She suffered the consequences, which sometimes I think painfully so. But it was always in the care and feeding of others, not herself. She was then, and she remains, one of the most unselfish and courageous souls that I have ever known. And I'm really, truly grateful for the opportunity to stand before you tonight and give my personal testimony to this remarkable woman to whom I owe so very much. And I suppose in the interest of full disclosure, I should say that she also brought into my life my second husband. And even though the marriage didn't last, we made a lot of great records and had one great kid together, so 2 out of 3 ain't bad, Mary. You know, there is a perception hovering about the music business out there amongst the civilians, I suppose, that it can be very cold and very heartless, but those of us here tonight know that that doesn't have to be the case. I, for one, was led into this business holding on to the hand of Mary. And Mary not only has a heart, she has the very best heart. I'm proud to know you, Mary, and I'm proud to be able to be the one to say, please welcome Mary Martin.
It's the award, nothing important, just the award.
Thank you. The Source is a remarkable organization. Thank you, every single one who made it this evening so memorable for me. I am thrilled, and you did a fabulous job. Now, Emmy.
Mary.
I am humbled before you. And what I love most about Emmy is her absolute passion. You know, this woman has such fearlessness that she can tackle not only her musical career that always thrills me, and I almost get to be really proud of that. But here she is.
Mary, you have to talk.
I don't. I think they can hear me.
They can hear you in the back. They can hear you in the back.
You're supposed to talk about yourself.
Well, where was I? All right. So Emmy Lou's life today is filled with balance, and I am in awe of that. I love that Emmy can be as passionate about her music as she is about her dog sheltering program.
Now, Mary, you're supposed to talk about yourself.
I know you said I was unselfish. So, what I would ask you, if you haven't fostered one of Emmy's dogs, would you be ever so kind to really take a puppy dog or a mature puppy from Emmy? That would mean a lot to me. That means you too, Norrell. So I am going to tell just one small tale of how bad I am.
Just one?
Just one. Just one. So in New York, when I was the director of A&R for Warner Brothers, I mean, none of the bosses were there, so they didn't know what I did. But because I was as good as it gets for Warner Brothers Records, meaning I got to make decisions, well, that's not entirely true, because the amount of chat that I had to do to convince my fellow A&R people in Mo Austin was really taxing. But anyway, so there I was, one Friday night. Why are you laughing? What? That's the truth, you know it. So one Friday night, Bonnie Raitt was performing at Max's Kansas City, and so a few of my friends thought, well, let's all go. And I had somewhat of a personal relationship with the club owner, and so I called him up and said, I would like to bring my tribe to this gig. So he gave me the big, wonderful table at the back of the club, and that was perfect. That's where I belonged, as did my guests. My guests included, I just have to say, a couple of people who worked for me and the fabulous Elizabeth Ashley. So there I was, and they came up, the club owner came up and said, do you mind if we see 2 additional civilians at your table? And I said, sure, carry on. Well, who came up were 2 young people who perhaps didn't belong below 23rd Street. And they came to the table, and of course they had the worst seats. And so they ordered their wine, and they started to whine. They started to complain. And there was Bonnie Raitt getting ready to go on, and I loved Bonnie Raitt, cared a lot about her. So they whined, they complained even more, to the degree that I finally said, hush! But I've said that in Nashville a couple of times too. So at the end of Bonnie Raitt's show, and I can't even begin to tell you what she sang, because I was so furious at this couple. Well, anyway, at this club, you could stand in a line and then line up for the second show. And so this horrible girl stood in line so that she could get a better seat and probably, she might think, better wine. Well, she said, and oh, I promised I wasn't going to swear, thanks for your generosity. And with that, I gave her my best shot. And I kept walking. And what really happened was, I think I knocked her out, but I didn't look back. And that's... I do love my friends who are songwriters and who are artists. I treasure everyone who knows me here and knows how badly behaved I can be. But I do thank the Source and the Sources Committee one more time for making this a really splendid evening for me. Thank you all. Thank you all.
Great. Congratulations. Tell you what, if there was ever a way I could do this career of mine over again, I'd like to work with Mary the next time around.
For real.
It is my honor to do this for my friend Hope Powell. Yay. Yes. One of Music Row's most celebrated and visible photographers for 5 decades. Hope Powell began her career as a wedding photographer in Greensboro, North Carolina. She photographed actress Jane Mansfield in Salisbury, North Carolina in the 60s, and soon became her official photographer. Due to Hope's interest in the processing of photos, she moved to Atlanta in 1968 to work in a photography lab, but soon found herself photographing belly dancers at a nearby club. That's our Hopi. When that club shut down, she began shooting country artists who were playing at Mama's Playroom in Atlanta. I thought some of these country people might have been belly dancers before. Over the next couple of years, artists such as Hank Williams Jr., Conway Twitty, Loretta Lynn, and Farron Young came to know her work. Hope soon began to work in Nashville, often shooting for Showbiz Productions. She moved to Music City in 1970, where in addition to photographing the CMA award shows, DJ conventions, the performing rights dinners, numerous syndicated TV shows, including Hee Haw, and 38 international fan club organization shows. Hope was the photographer for numerous album covers, including covers for Dolly Parton and Porter Wagner. Hope has photographed everyone from Lucille Ball and George Burns to Presidents Jimmy Carter and Richard Nixon, to Alex Haley, Arnold Palmer, Billy Graham, Mickey Mantle, just to name a few. They didn't mention me, but I was in there too. Her work is featured in such Time Life publications as Classic Country and Legends of Classic Country. She is currently working on 4 books of her photographs for publication, and I personally can't wait to see them. I've had the pleasure of being around Hope on many personal occasions as well as professional. And I do want to take this opportunity to thank her, because back through the years when she was the photographer at all those events, she made sure that I got included in some of the pictures for the press. And so I got a lot more press coverage than I would have otherwise, and I thank you for that, Hope. So here is my friend, Hope Powell.
And look right there. You know what it's like to take photos. Hold your little ward up. Hold it up. There you go.
Back. Let him show. Can I?
Absolutely. Thank you.
I don't get a chance to talk very often. I wrote this poem for Source. I cannot believe this honor from Source. I'm humbled and feel unworthy, of course. I don't feel I'm worthy, but I'm proud. And if I could repay you, if I could repay you, if allowed, this one thing to you I'd like to say, I ask God to bless you when I pray.
No, I'm going to dispense with the box. Yeah.
Well, I'm used to,
I've bonded with the palm tree, and I'm going to...
well, I'm kind of used to working with Jimmy Dickens.
Yeah. I'm going to... Yeah. Yeah. Well. So, Emmy Lou, you're 60. That is wonderful. Yeah. I say, you know, some things never change. I'm still short. I've still got big hair. I'm 62, and I'm glad to be with you tonight. It's fun. And let me say something about our mayor, the real mayor, the real mayor. Because, you know, I've been in Nashville, as a lot of you have, for many, many, many years, and this mayor has really championed our music business. He really loves our business, and he's championed it all over the place, and we appreciate that so very much. Thank you. Now let me find my Charlie, we're still got stuff up here from you. Okay. All right, here we go. This next recipient, Jan Ray Suk. Jan, where are you? Where are you? Over here. There you are. Jan began her career in the Nashville music industry in 1967 as an assistant to CMA executive Joe Walker Metter, and went on to head the CMA Public Relations and Special Projects departments. She has been involved with the CMA Awards every year since it became a nationally televised special. As Public Relations Coordinator, she was responsible for setting up the first post-awards press conference held at Mr. Ed's Bar across the alley from the Ryman Auditorium. I didn't make that stop. I don't know about that. Jan left the CMA in 1976 to pursue a career in television production and worked on the Johnny Cash Summer Series for producer Joe Cates. One of the few Nashville-based production specialists, she was the producer of Roy Acuff's 50th anniversary roast, hosted by Vice President George H.W. Bush, the parade coordinator for the 200th birthday celebration of Nashville, and the coordinator of the groundbreaking Nissan plant. Jan was soon back working on the CMA Awards in 1977 as talent coordinator. She also served as associate producer, coordinating producer, and production manager on several other shows. Walter Miller named her talent executive of the CMA Awards in 1990. Although she worked on the first CMA Music Festival, then known as Fanfare, while a CMA employee, she returned and has coordinated talent for the CMA Music Festival and its affiliated television specials for ABC TV since the festival moved downtown Nashville in 2001. Among network television shows, Jan has worked the Grand Ole Opry 50th, 60th, and 65th anniversaries, the 25th anniversary of the Country Music Hall of Fame, the Johnny Cash specials, and Lucille Ball's Nashville TV show. Some of the cable television shows Jan worked are the Dove Awards, Music City News, TNN Awards, the Statler Brothers series for TNN, and the Stellar Awards, just to name a few. Jan is still very active in television production today. Here is Jan's longtime friend, Joe Walker Metter, to present Jan her Source Award. Hello, darling. Hey.
Thank you. Well, Janet, you're even greater than I thought you were. or that I knew you were. I thought. Jan came to work at CMA. Actually, it was a year later than they said, 1968. She was an excellent worker. She had a great attitude and a quick mind. But she married Richard Garrett. He was a member of the Four Guys who were members of the Grand Ole Opry. And after a short period of time, for some reason, I don't know what, they were lured to Wheeling, West Virginia to become members of the Wheeling Jamboree. So when she left, another lady was employed, and soon after she was employed, when she learned what we had to do for the preparation and through the week-long convention, known by various names, from the Disc Jockey Convention to the Grand Ole Opry birthday celebration to the Country Music Festival and eventually to the CMA Week. And she came to me and said, this lady did, she said, well, I can't do that, and I might as well give my notice now before you spend any more time training me. And a few days went by, and Jan called. She said, we're coming back to Nashville. Can I get my old job back? I said, you're darn right. When can you start? So Jan came back and worked in various capacities for CMA, replacing a man who was PR director. But after a while, the grass looked greener elsewhere, and Jan left us again, as you heard in the talk that they've said about her tonight. And So, but after a period of time being away, she called and said she'd like to come back to CMA, and I happened to need someone to head the special projects department at that time. And so I said, well, come on back, great. So I hired her for the third time. But then she went to work for the CMA Awards show and has held a position there, very ably filled a position as executive, account executive for 32 years. So when you put the... So you put that all together, Janice actually worked for CMA more years than anybody else. Jan, I appreciate all the outstanding contributions you've made to the music industry in general, and of course to CMA in particular, as well as to my own life. Jan, I love you, and I'm just tickled to death that I get to present this wonderful honor that the Source Foundation is bestowing upon you tonight. Will you come up and join us?
Let's do a little.
Thank you, Judy.
There you go. Yes. It's okay.
That's okay. It's okay. Thank you so much. No, will you hold it for me? I'm a little verklempt. I'm used to being behind the scenes, not up here. But I'm very, very grateful. I appreciate our mayor being here tonight, and our Music Row mayor. And I want to thank the ladies of the committee. What a grand thing you've done, and the foresight you had in doing this for all of us people who do like to stay in the background. You know, I have to thank Jo Walker, met her more than anything. I think I was 20 years old when I went to work for her, and she taught me so much, and I got experience in lots of different areas with public relations and special projects, and then working with the television committee while I was on staff there, and I kind of figured out what I wanted to do when I worked with that television committee, and Jo set the ball in motion for me in the business, and that she'd let me know that I could do and be whatever I wanted to be, and I appreciate that. I know every woman in this room owes her a debt of gratitude for moving the glass ceiling when we didn't even acknowledge that there was one. I want to thank my family who's over here tonight, my wonderful husband and lovely daughter and 2 grandchildren. They're the reason that I do what I do every day of my life, which is thank God for the love that I have. And other special friends who are here tonight, and you know who you are. There's some wonderful ladies that I worked with in the business for many years who are here tonight, some of them are out of town, still working. And that's Frances Ann Varello and Pam Rep and Margaret Bailey. We worked so many hours together with Sandy and Sharon and Christine and some of the other women who couldn't be here tonight. And sometimes we'd work till 2 o'clock in the morning, and we'd be staggering around, laughing and half nuts and sometimes crying. But we've got quite a history together, and in case you don't know, there's a wonderful television production community in this town, pre-CMT. We did a lot of work, and we're still working, which is a great thing. Some wonderful producers helped me along the way. Joe Cates, who was then the producer of the CMA Awards show, I called him after I left CMA, and I said, Joe, I think what I want to do is work in television. And if you have any other shows or coming down here, you know, I'd just love to work for you. And he said, what are you doing next week? And I said, well, why? And he said, well, I'm coming to town to do the Johnny Cash Summer Series, and we'd love to have you work with us. And so I did, and he and Walter was directing the show at that time, Walter Miller, and some other wonderful people from around the country. I think I was the only Nashville person hired, and some other wonderful people were so generous to teach me, you know, just the nomenclature, the vernacular of the business is so different from anything I'd ever heard. And they were so generous. And they took me into their homes as I worked around the country with them. They would have me stay at their houses as we traveled. And it was wonderful. The only reason that I quit traveling was when I had this beautiful daughter and a husband that went south. And so I decided I better stay put in Music City. But I always want to remember Joe, and I certainly want to remember and thank. I'll be meeting with him next week. The wonderful Walter Miller. He's my mentor. He's my hero, and I so appreciate his creativity and what he's done for the award show over the years. And then there's Jim Owens. I got to work a lot of shows with Jim. He was very generous to me. And now I have the new kid on the block, Robert Deaton. I don't know if he's training me or I'm training him. Please don't tell him I said it. I really do know who the boss is. Also, let's see, what else did I want to say? I'm going to try to do this before they play the shut up music. I would like to say that the music is in my heart. I'm from East Tennessee, and I remember as a little girl, Mom and Dad listening to the Opry, and that was a highlight every week. And Mama used to tease Dad used to tease Mama. Mama's name was Lucille, and he'd tease her, "Put your shoes on, Lucy," and I can remember him getting up and dancing around. Of course, what he was dancing, you know, inside of him was a little more than music, but it still stuck to me, you know. I remember it seemed like a happy time. And I love music, and after I got out of school, I had several jobs. I was a 3-month wonder, you know. I'd go to work somewhere. I love this job. You know, a month later, I'd learned it, and I became the company workhorse, you know, work. And the next month, I was bored. And so I changed jobs about every 3 months for a couple of years, and when I accidentally heard about the CMA job from Geneva Foster, who used to be at CMA. When I came to work there, I found my heart again. I love music. I love that it lifts our hearts, that it gives us an opportunity to express our sadness and our happiness. And it's meant a great deal to me. And being with the award show for 40 years, I mean, I turned around one day and I'm like, how the heck did this happen? You know? And it's just amazing what happens when you don't die. And keep calling Joe and saying, can I come back? And then Walter and Joe Cates and those guys hired me, and Ed let me stay on, and Tammy Genovese and Bobette, who's my immediate liaison now. They've been so generous with me and so kind, and I respect what they do so much. And all of you ladies in this room, I was like, when I was hearing everything about Mary and Hope, I'm like, and of course, Felice Bryant, I never thought my name would be mentioned in the same sentence with her. She's one of my heroes. And so I'm so honored to be here tonight, and I thank every one of you. I'm glad my grandkids will have some place to come in the air conditioning and visit Grandma one day. With the heat wave going on here in Tennessee, that may be more important than we think, you know. But I thank you so much.
Congratulations, Jan. Our next inductee is Maggie Carter Ward. Maggie, a native of Decatur, Alabama, came to Nashville to attend boarding school at David Lipscomb High School. She graduated from David Lipscomb College and began her career in the stock brokerage business. After several years as a stay-at-home mom, the toughest job of all, Maggie re-entered the workforce as office manager at a radio station. When the owner of the station decided to make a career change, he arranged for Maggie to interview with Jack Stapp and Joyce Bush at Tree Publishing Company. They hired her to oversee the royalty and copyright departments at the company. When she started at Tree, Roger Miller had a #1 song with King of the Road, and during her tenure, Curly Putnam scored with Green, Green Grass of Home. Other writers she worked with included Joe Tex, Bobby Braddock, Dottie and Bill West, and Harlan Howard. After 4 years with Tree, Maggie, with the help of Harlan Howard, landed a job with Mel Tillis. At Mel Tillis Enterprises, she worked with Mel's record label, performing rights organizations, publishers, writers, and television producers. Maggie retired after 10 years with Mel Tillis Enterprises. I could imagine 10 years with Mel Tillis is about enough, especially when you had to put up with Buddy Cannon also. How much can any woman take, you know? But was lured out of retirement to manage Fireside Studios. When the studio was sold 10 years later, Maggie retired again from the music industry. Due to uncontrollable circumstances, Maggie is unable to be with us tonight, but accepting the award on her behalf is this year's Source President, Judy Harris.
I know that Maggie would have loved to have been here, but unfortunately she couldn't. So we will be sure that she gets this award. And after working with Mel all those years, I'm sure she'd say, thank you.
Thank you, Judy. Brenda, I just want to add one comment right here. After listening to Mary and Jan, it just occurred to me, and all the women that I know and know their work all through the years, the employer is not necessarily the boss. Did y'all get that message?
Never, never. Our next recipient is Trish Williams Warren. Where are you, Trish? There's Trish. There she is. All right. Trish Williams Warren is a native of Newton Grove, North Carolina, population 600. She received her Bachelor of Music degree in music education from the University of North Carolina, Greensboro. During her junior year in college, she traveled with the USO Entertainment Troupe to military facilities in Florida, Guantanamo Bay, Panama, and Puerto Rico. After teaching high school music for 2 years, she moved to Nashville in 1967, landing a job with the great Norro Wilson at Al Gallico Music, where she worked with such songwriters as Billy Sherrill, Glenn Sutton, and Steve Davis. Boy, did you get an education.
And she survived.
And you survived it as well. In 1970, she moved literally next door to work with producer Jerry Kennedy at Mercury Records. I love Jerry Kennedy. I love him. At Mercury, she worked with artists such as Jerry Lee Lewis, the Statler Brothers, Farron Young, Roger Miller, Tom T. Hall, Reba McEntire, Roy Orbison, George Burns, Patti Page, Ray Stevens, and Connie Smith, just to name a few. In 1984, when Jerry left Mercury Records to form JK Productions, Trish followed him and worked with artists such as Boxcar Willie, Mel McDaniel, Roy Clark, and Floyd Kramer. During this time, she continued singing background vocals on numerous albums. In 1991, Trish retired and moved back to her hometown. Oh, I love this. To marry her 7th grade sweetheart, a retired Army officer, Larry Warren, who she met through the music business because they were in a band together in middle school. I love that. Oh. That. Oh, Larry, where are you? Oh, look at that. Oh, I love that. What a story. Trish is still in the music business as choir director and organist at Newton Grove United Methodist Church and pianist and assistant music director at Hopewell United Methodist Church. Trish, come on up here and receive your well-deserved Source Award. Yes.
Okay, we have to do a photo op.
Oh, we have to
Right
do
here.
a photo.
Right,
Okay,
right this
here.
minute.
Right now?
Take your board.
This lady.
Hold it, honey. See, it's one of those.
I'm freaking out. Is it now?
It's not.
I've never been this nervous. You hold this one. I don't want it to slide off. Indeed, I have never been this nervous. I'm glad that the mayor is here. I thought your comments were divine. And our other mayor, Charlie, I love you. Robert Kay, I love you too. And I have one date to add for August 23rd. One of my favorite nephews, Dustin Bryan, is 20 years old today. And his mom, my sister, is here with her husband, Mark. And I just wanted to add that to the dates today. A special day. I must begin with Kay Smith. Where are you? The most patient, tolerant, gracious, giving woman I have met this year, and she would be so glad to be done with me. Thank you. She has been above everything I could have imagined. Okay, 40 years ago, this very summer, I resigned my position as a school teacher in music ed and choral music, and on a very hot day in July that summer, I packed all my worldly goods in one little Pontiac Tempest that was unair conditioned, and I moved to Nashville, Tennessee. In telling my family goodbye, I hugged my grandmother and she cried. I hugged my mother and she cried. All my sisters, they were done with me. I hugged my daddy and he cried, and I nearly died at that. And for 30 miles, I cried and cried and cried. And every driveway went, "You could still turn around. What are you doing? You could still turn around here. Where are you going? These people back here love you." I moved to Nashville, Tennessee that day and never could have imagined that that day could have brought me to this moment. I thank you for this beautiful ride. I really do. I thank you, Mom and Dad, for loving me enough to let me go. Nara Wilson, you started me on this journey. Thank you for that. Jerry Kennedy kept me on this journey long enough that I got this award. Thank you, Jerry. I have so many wonderful co-workers and friends, and many of you are here tonight, and I'm thrilled about that. Your good work, especially you ladies, you girls, made me look good, and that's why I stand here. And I am especially proud that so many members of my family are here at this table. I especially thank my sister Edna. Many of you know her. She was one of the best co-workers that I ever had, and she really made me look good.
And thank you, my precious husband, Larry, who... Brenda loves you, sure enough. He has been so proud and so excited about this occasion. I thank you for that, and I thank you for your love, and I thank you that you still find joy in the music that I do in Newton Grove, North Carolina. I am really... Don't cry now. Okay. Thank you especially to this sisterhood of Source. I salute you. I am so pleased at your passion and the things that you do, the special things you do all year long that we don't really know anything about. But if you get to talk to some of them long enough, you'll learn about them, and they're very special. So support this organization. I just thank you so much for this occasion. As I said before, I think this has been a beautiful ride. I treasure. Let me hold it now. No, it's yours. I treasure this honor. I am blessed, and I thank you so much. Good to see you.
One more big applause for our departing mayor of Music City, USA, Bill Purcell. And a great big applause for these crazy women, Brenda and Jeannie. Would you give them a big? And here to tell you that the fun will continue, the president of Source, Judy Harris.
On behalf of Source, I just can't thank you all enough for coming out and for celebrating these women's lives. We appreciate it so much, and I thank you for your support and your continued support for the Source Awards next year. So I hope that everybody has a very safe, wonderful evening going home, and I'm so glad to see so many people I haven't seen in so long. Thank you all so much. Mayor Purcell, thank you so much for being with us. And y'all have a great evening, and we'll see you next year.
And the bar is open.